When the automotive world started, there was nothing for car guys. However, being a competitive little demon has always been in the manly spirit, and so of course, ever since automobiles have been around, there has been racing, and will most likely never stop. But have you ever stopped to think about where all of our little sports cars under $5,000 with over 200,000 miles and a broken tie rod came from? Well, if you're a fan of the tuner world like myself, we can all thank the wonderful Datsun 510. In the 1950s, the automotive world was kinda at a standstill. Every car company was worried about the possibility of another war, and every country out there was working on rebuilding their economy. But then, in the 1960s, the world would finally recover enough and would start to offer to the normal people some fun vehicles. Sure, before the 60s, there was very cool cars out there, like some Porsches and Ferraris, but they were always way out of the budget of a normal citizen. But then, America came out with the first ever muscle car in 1965 called the Pontiac GTO, and the Europeans started making their flagship supercars and high-class sedans as well. The rest was history. But do you ever wonder what car exactly started the Japanese tuner car craze? Well, in 1968, just like every other country out there, Japan wanted to join in on the affordable sports car fun and would introduce the Datsun 510, and it would become iconic. The car was built with the sole purpose of beating out all of the German sedans of the time, but sadly, in the 60s, America wasn't buying too many Japanese cars. The craze for us Americans was these big muscle cars, especially when you consider the Japanese just bombed our naval port only 20 years earlier, so no American really wanted to buy from them. That would be like everyone buying cars that were made by Al-Qaeda in 2023. So naturally, the car sold pretty badly in the American markets, meaning if you ever see one of these on the road in one of those countries, it is something to stare at.
How's this, Goodwin?
It's beautiful.
Like I said before, the 510, or called the Datsun 1600 in different countries outside of North America, was built with the sole purpose of beating out the main competition, which was those damn sedans coming from Germany. And the way they would do this would be to offer everything the sedans were offering, but in a much cheaper platform, so that the average man could experience something fun and reliable, which if you think about it, has kind of become the selling point behind Japanese sports cars. Sure, they won't be the fastest car on the track, and they definitely aren't giving the American muscle a run for its money at the drag strip, but you can take it to the drag strip and drive it home immediately after, all for significantly cheaper than the other cars, which is something that can't really be said for all the high-end sports cars out there. The car did, however, have tons of fun bits on it that still to this day are very impressive to see on a car. It had independent suspension on all four corners by using McPherson front struts and trailing arms on the rear, while also having front and rear disc brakes, my brother-in-law. The car was also given a 1.6 liter single overhead cam, one inline four, which only made 96 horsepower, yes, but back in the day that wasn't bad at all, especially considering its size, weighing in at only 2,000 pounds, meaning that this car had a top speed of exactly 100 miles per hour. It was a proper sports car, but was being sold at the same price as a normal commuter car, and sadly, it still never really sold well at all.
Another beautiful day at the crust.
I'm out. You think I'm about to... I'm not watching this! Look! I'm tired of it.
But don't worry, my friend, it does get better from here. Luckily, after the first couple of years, the Americans stopped being so upset at the Japanese for their crimes against our military and realized that Datsun had nothing to do with that. So the 510's sale numbers started to climb. As a matter of fact, they climbed so much that the 510 would become the very first Japanese car to prove to Japan that there was a market for Japanese sports cars in North America. Think of it like my YouTube channel. It has really started climbing over the years, and I'm thankful every day for the opportunity you all have given me, but the subscriber percentage rate is still only at 20%. Let's get that number up, folks. But the 510 made its mark. It was finally selling well in not only Japanese and European countries, but in the North Americas too now, which was big news considering how much of an impact the American market has on the car industry. The main reason we came around to it was the gas mileage and price, not gonna lie. The car was getting an average 20 to 30 miles per gallon, which is incredible for the 60s. And like I said before, it was cheaper than both the European and American cars offered to us. But over time, when people finally got into the car, they realized there was so much more that made the car cool. The Datsun 510 on paper isn't anything to write home about, but when you mainly look at the time period and what it had when it was built, you may just start writing the next Bible to your family. Yes, the motor was low on power, and the car definitely was not the most beautiful thing out there, but it had race car parts on it. It could reach 100 miles per hour. It was cheap as hell, and it was reliable and good on gas too. On top of all that stuff, this was one of the very first cars ever to offer such a wide variety of models for whatever kind of person you were. It was offered as a 4-door sedan, 2-door sedan, 2-door coupe, and a 5-door wagon, and every single one of those body styles were also offered with either a 4-speed manual transmission or even a damn 3-speed automatic, which yes is not cool to us, and the automatic back then took a solid 5 years to shift gears, but it was still kind of cool to see that in this car that it was even offered with an automatic. The only thing you didn't really get to choose was the tires that spun when you pressed the gas. It was no matter what a rear wheel drive car, which I mean, I ain't complaining. Nowadays, the Datsun 510 is still commonly looked at as one of the very first tuner cars, and it is still to this day loved by almost anybody in the car community, or at least they have respect for it. The prices aren't too kind anymore, with rolling shells selling for over $20,000, and the car definitely doesn't hold up in terms of performance or features, but for some reason, people still love it. And the reason why is kind of the same reason why everybody loves those early 2000s Hondas. Everything is interchangeable for dirt cheap. Datsun back in the day, in order to save money, reused almost every part, and this made so that all the Datsun 510s, even in the damn 70s, had tons of parts laying around for them that were meant for higher horsepower cars like the Z cars or even Skylines of the time, meaning it was very common for people to swap the 1.6 liter out for a 1.8 liter or even a 2 liter, bringing the horsepower up massively. And if you're worrying about the transmission, well, once again, it was very common for people to swap the 4-speed manual out for the bigger 5-speed manual. And sure, back then the 2 liter was still only making 130 horsepower, which isn't that great, but that is a huge jump for a car that weighs less than a damn Miata. And remember that this was just the start for the tuner craze that we all know and love. The Datsun 510 is definitely not a car for everybody. Not only is it a ridiculous investment for normal people, but the car is very small and low power, meaning the car is more catered towards the car guys that like things like Miatas or Civics, little toge monsters that handle like they're a damn go-kart. But if you have any bit of respect for the car community that we have today, the least you can do is appreciate what the Datsun 510 did for us. I'm not the biggest muscle car guy out there, but I still respect the hell out of the Pontiac GTO, and I'm not the biggest Euro guy out there, but I still love the 2002 Turbo for what it did. So even if you hate listening to the Civics with their horrible $100 fart can exhaust ripping up and down your road at 3 a.m. every night, the least you can do is admit that the low price, good reliability, race car parts, and insane levels of tunability is what makes the Datsun 510 so great. That is the end of today's video on what makes the Datsun 510 so gosh diddly darn good. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. What were you thinking? What were you thinking, buddy? Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Let me know what other, what makes it great videos you want to see. I'm probably going to do one on the Ford Ranger next because I want to, and it seems like a pretty fun thing to do it on. But let me know what other ones you'd like to see. You guys really like the what makes it great, so I'm definitely going to keep doing these. But like I said, it really helps if I get like some suggestions. It would mean a lot. So thank you guys so much for watching though. I appreciate it. I love each and every one of you. Das Vidania. Have a nice night.